Let's talk about task safety analysis, or sometimes referred to as job safety analysis. What is this? After we have done an initial risk assessment in our work area for all of the tasks that we are doing and the area in which we are working, we now need to apply that knowledge to specific tasks because all of the hazards in the workplace are not at play at the same time. When I do certain tasks in certain areas, only normally a small subset, a small part of the hazards in my total initial risk assessment is at play. What we want to do is we want to tell people how to do tasks safely, and we are going to use the information that we've collected and assembled as part of our initial risk assessment during this step. What is a job or a task safety analysis? Well, this is a process or a procedure that helps us to understand and integrate safety management into the operation so that it's not a standalone process, so that whatever I am doing, I can actually do it safely, productively, cost effectively, and produce the right outputs without harm to health or injury. What we are going to do, each basic step of a job, and I'll explain a little bit later what exactly is a job. We are going to analyze every job. We're going to break it down into steps, and then we will identify the hazards that play a role during that specific job step. And then what we will do is we will define or establish and describe the ways by which people can keep themselves healthy and safe while they are doing that specific step of the task. Sometimes what we do is we don't limit this task safety analysis only to safety. We can also look at quality issues. We can look at productivity or cost issues. When I do that, I get a total job safety analysis where I can do this job in the best possible way, the cheapest possible way, the fastest way, the most reliable way, and safe as well. For the purpose of this exercise, we are only going to look at the safety aspects of a job. What do I mean when I say a job or a task? We can use either one of them. Some companies, some organizations, they talk about a task. Other organizations or people talk about a job. I'm going to use them interchangeably. In other words, I will sometimes use the term task and I will at other times use the term job, but they mean the same thing. A task or a job is a specific assignment. It's normally one aspect of a bigger project, of a bigger set of tasks that will deliver a specific output. And it's a subset, it's one task done from beginning to end, but it's a small chunk. It's like washing your hands, changing the wheel on a car, digging a trench, moving an object from point A to point B, mixing a certain amount of chemicals, cleaning a certain area. It's difficult to really specify exactly how big a job should be, but you will get a feel for it. If I break the job up too finely, let's say I need to wash my hands. After this COVID exercise, we now know how to wash hands because we were told to wash our hands for about 20 seconds. So there they said, you need to do this, step 1, step 2, get the soap, wash this way, wash that way, wash this way, wash that way, and so on. The total task of washing your hands make up quite a few steps. I don't want to break it up down to the point where I say how you need to pick up a bottle of soap, how you open up the bottle, or if you are going to clean an area. I don't want to break it up to the point where a job or a task is only you pick up the broom or you move the broom from left to right. A job in this case would make up a whole lot of steps of going to the area, observing the area, getting your cleaning tools together, using your cleaning tools, collecting the stuff that you've cleaned, removing your cleaning tools, and storing your cleaning tools. So you can see that a job or a task is not small pieces, contains quite a few steps. It should also not be too big, because if it's too big, then I cannot analyze the detail. I cannot really get into that step. And what's going to happen is that a lot of hazards will be at play at one time. I don't want to say to build a house, because that's a whole project. Now what I can do is I need to break this project down into subsets, and the smallest subset that I will use for a task safety analysis, that is what we call a job or a task. This is an example. If I say that I'm going to build a house, that is a whole project. Now, while I build a house, there are several big milestones, several phases in this project. The first one I can mention is clearing a site. Now, clearing a site may have a lot of different tasks. Might be to remove a fence in front of the building site. Might be to clear the building site, the big objects using a front-end loader or some other machinery. And then there might be smaller tasks like coming in and clearing some of the areas, some of the rocks, some of the smaller items, smoothing over the area manually with shovels and other pieces of equipment. Now, cleaning the area with a front-end loader would be a task. And cleaning the area, cleaning the site using a shovel and doing manual work, that would also be a task. Removing the fencing in front of the building site, that might be a task. So I hope you get the idea of what a job or a task is. Why would we want to do task analysis or job safety analysis? Let's look at some of the benefits. One of the methods, an example, what we do is we observe a worker actually doing his job. Now what that does, it makes me as the observer aware of the practical restraints and the problems that a worker may face while he's doing a task. So it brings the observer, which should typically be a supervisor, it brings him closer to the job. So it helps you to serve practically what's happening. Unfortunately, some tasks are not done on a regular basis, and we are going to do task safety analysis on them without necessarily being on the job or being able to observe the task, but we can still talk and involve the people that are doing that task. Another approach, and that is touching on what I've just said, is I get a group of experienced workers together, and what we do is we share common knowledge. Now, a benefit of that is I can sometimes find out from you that you are doing it in a more productive way, and I can make my activities more productive, and we can share knowledge in that process. The more people we involve in this base of experience, the more we can share and promote experience and create good, effective work procedures. We also need to involve the members of the Health and Safety Committee in this so that they can share their knowledge about hazards and we can ask them questions about certain controls that we might not understand, or hazards even. The real benefits will come out when you start analyzing this, and I will show you something that I called a SIPOC tool. And this is where we are going to analyze all the tools, all the inputs, all the waste and the process steps that we are going to use. And it will make you so much more aware of what's happening in these tasks. It will raise your safety awareness. It will improve communication between workers and supervisors. And we will develop better safety procedures, and then also those safety procedures are more likely to get accepted by the people that have to follow them if they are involved in developing those procedures. A job safety analysis hopefully will produce, if you do it right, a written work procedure based on that task safety analysis, which you can then call a standard operating procedure or a safe working procedure. That will then serve as the foundation to teach people on the job, especially new people that come in afterwards. Will also form the basis of what we call your task observation in future. You can use that as a standard so that everybody uses the same method in the same way, and it will help you to complete a comprehensive foundation of how a job should be done, so that if there's an incident later on, your incident investigation can then be based on how the job should have been done and what were the dangers involved. So your accident and incident investigations also become more comprehensive. Unfortunately, like any risk assessment method, you can never guarantee that you will see all the hazards and all the incidents. We try our best. You use your knowledge, experience, and your imagination to try and forecast some of these things, to try and envision where people might get hurt, but there's never a guarantee. The method is very sensitive to assumptions made by analysts on where you are working, what tools you are working, what circumstances you are working on. And it's very sensitive to the experience of the participants, because we need the experience of past incidents or similar incidents to be able to forecast and imagine future incidents. If people are not very experienced in such a task or about these hazards, then the output will be lacking. And sometimes what can happen if you don't have a nice template, if you don't document this nicely, the results are sometimes difficult to manage and to interpret. We'll try and overcome that with a good template that we will have. There are 4 basic steps in doing a task safety analysis. First one, you need to select the job that you want to analyze. You need to then break down that task or the job into a sequence of steps. You need to identify the hazards, and this is where your initial risk assessment and the knowledge on how to do a risk assessment now comes into play. And then what we will do, we will see what kind of incidents may result, and then we develop controls to make sure that these incidents don't happen. We can use a lot of the information that we've developed in our initial risk assessment, and we can transfer that knowledge and apply that knowledge during our task safety analysis. Let's just quickly review what is a task. A task is a unit of work that has a definite beginning and ending point, and it results in the completion of a product or a process. When we write task statements, the task steps, we are going to use action verbs. We are going to use you pick up something, you write something, you clean something, you move something. So an action word, a verb, the task step will also always contain an action verb. There will always be an element, something that is moved, something that is changed, something that is done, and there will be an end condition. So 3 things as a minimum is an action, an object, and there will be a change, something that will be the result of the action. Which jobs should be analyzed? Which jobs should we do a job safety analysis in? Well, ideally, you need to do a job safety analysis on all the jobs. But you might have a lot of different tasks and there might not necessarily be time to do this. So one way to do it is we look at which tasks, what raw materials or tools or equipment you use. And once again, if I have done my baseline risk assessment, my initial risk assessment, I will know which hazards are employed in which tasks. And if there's a hazard that has got a very high risk rating to it, like it can cause serious injuries or fatality, then any task that involves such a hazard as part of the inputs, as part of the equipment, or that happens in the vicinity or close to one of these hazards, obviously those tasks will have a top priority. So I will focus on the tasks that involves high risk rating hazards that we have identified in the baseline risk assessment. What else can I look at when I want to select tasks for analysis? Well, any tasks that have a high rate of accidents or incidents, where incidents and injuries occur frequently. Any task or hazard with a high potential for severe injuries or illnesses. In other words, if you use the risk rating, it will be a high likelihood rating and it will be a high consequence rating. So there's a high consequence of severe illnesses or injuries. Any new jobs that we don't fully understand yet, where we haven't had the experience on whether they have a lot of injuries, I can analyze it based on the hazards that will be involved in this task or this job. Any job that is modified because I've changed the way that we are working. Normally when there's change, there is a greater chance of something going wrong because maybe our training is not up to date, maybe we are using new equipment, new chemicals, we are working in another area, we are doing things a little bit differently. Another category of jobs that we want to analyze are infrequently done jobs. What happens if we do jobs regularly? Then we get to iron out a lot of the problems, and people get used to doing tasks in a certain way, and we start doing them safely. We establish a good way of doing them, and suddenly I have to do a job that I haven't done for a year. So I might have forgotten some steps. I might have forgotten some of the safety procedures that I needed to follow or the right PPE. So it's a good idea if you have jobs that you don't do so frequently, non-routine jobs, if you do job safety analysis or task safety analysis on them. It doesn't have to be a new job safety analysis, but you need to do it at least once. And then when the job gets done again, you need to take that same analysis and revise it to see if things are still the same and if circumstances and the same hazards are still at play. Right, so this is why we do it and how we are going to do job selection to do task safety analysis. bliksem.